Hey dropout, translate this in an hour. I glanced at the documents handed to me with a mocking laughter. It appeared to be a contract written in French. It might be too hard for you without a college degree, but get it done in less than an hour. Behind those mocking words, I could sense the intent of ridicule, thinking I'd probably fail, and wondering how they could make fun of me if I did. The surrounding co-workers watched the exchange with a mix of sympathy and disbelief. Reading such a document would take less than 3 seconds. As I quickly scanned the content, I was taken aback, because it detailed an unbelievable deal. I've skimmed through it, and this contract is just absurd. What? No way you read that so quickly. Facing his raised angry voice, I calmly pointed out the errors in the documents. My name is Sam. I'm a regular office worker at a certain company. Well, starting today, I'll be working at the New York headquarters. Growing up in a poor family, I started working on the ground at this company right after middle school. Back then, it was just a part-time gig, but eventually, I was hired full-time. My co-workers were kind, and despite my limited formal education, they taught me a lot. From the job itself to math and even languages, I learned a lot on the job. I always believed that what I learned would one day benefit the company and contribute to its growth. With that mindset, the company helped shape me into a respectable professional, recognizing my skills and eventually trusting me with an assignment to an overseas branch. Although my first venture abroad presented numerous challenges, it was rewarding, and I was able to build good relationships with the locals. To be honest, I have been offered higher positions multiple times but always declined because I prioritized hands-on work at the branch. It was a decision many people regretted, but they respected my choice and let me proceed how I saw fit. Thanks to that, our overseas branch got on the right track, generating stable revenue. And so, I've proudly returned to the New York headquarters. Though my departure was bittersweet for many at the branch, I know they've grown enough to run it on their own. Many came to the airport to bid me farewell, bearing loads of gifts and bouquets. I waved back at them. I am heading back to the States and going to serve as a regular worker at the New York headquarters for a while to get accustomed to working there. I've missed my home country and regard my co-workers like family, so I was eagerly anticipating my return. I gazed out of the airplane window, lost in thought. After a long time away, I was excited about returning to the States and to the impressive new building of headquarters. Starting today, this is my workplace. As I looked around the spacious office, Harry gave a brief introduction about me. The co-workers, many of whom I didn't recognize, greeted me with applause. The only familiar face seems to be Harry. For now, I'll be assigned to the sales department where Harry works, to get a grasp of the atmosphere and work routine of the New York headquarters. There's talk about me taking up a significant position later on, but revealing that now might intimidate some co-workers. So, for now, they introduced me as just another co-worker returning from the branch. Starting from today, I look forward to working here. With that greeting, I bowed my head, and the co-workers greeted me with warm applause. I thought this was a great workplace. I never imagined that among the young, motivated co-workers, there would be someone with malicious intent. On the first day, I focused on understanding the workflow, getting to know clients, and familiarizing myself with ongoing contracts. That's when I was introduced to a young man named James, a graduate from a prestigious university, and showing promise as a rookie just a year after joining the company. Nodding in agreement with Harry's words that we both have something to learn from each other, I introduced myself. I'm Sam. Nice to meet you. As I extended my hand for a handshake, after a quick glance, James introduced himself in a somewhat irritated tone. "I'm James." Regardless, I was now set to work with James. Thinking back, there was a sense of discomfort from the beginning. "Sam, right. Keep it in mind that I'm the senior here, after all." "Oh, understood." The moment the department had left, his tone and attitude turned curt. However, I figured for a young and talented guy like him, mentoring a middle-aged man sent over from a branch office must seem like a tedious task, so I decided not to let it bother me. Perhaps I shouldn't have been so accepting of his demeanor. For about the first week, I was able to learn the nature of the job by observing James at work. Since he didn't give me any explicit directions, I assumed it was a learn-by-watching kind of situation. But it seems I was mistaken. "You're just sitting next to me, collecting a paycheck. Aren't you a little old to be doing that?" That day, out of the blue, he dropped that comment, and I was taken aback. I have been diligently taking notes while watching James work, ensuring I understood the workflow. I made it a point to remember all our clients and contract details and was already strategizing about future dealings, but to him, it seemed like I was slacking off. Before I could even explain the misunderstanding, James turned to chat with a passing female co-worker. "Where's that coffee going?" "It's for Harriet's office. He has a visitor." From the female co-worker who responded, James quickly took the tray from her. Without even glancing at her puzzled expression, he turned to me and said, "You're just hanging around today too, aren't you? Do this simple task." I carefully took the tray, making sure not to spill the coffee. But it's okay. Let's get the guy who's been doing nothing all week to do some work." "All right, please take it to the reception room then." The female co-worker, looking troubled, gave a slight bow and James said, "No need for that. Now, get moving," pushing me along with those words. Though I was confused, it was still a task I had been assigned. If I didn't hurry, I'd end up making the guests wait. Understood. Saying that, I carried the coffee to the reception room. From then on, his arrogant attitude only got worse. He blatantly looked down on me, hurling insults my way. I wondered what I had done to upset him. I couldn't recall doing anything to deserve such disdain, leaving me puzzled. Nevertheless, I'm currently in a position to learn under him at work. I had no choice but to endure it. "Hey, old man, copy this for me. We need it for the meeting, so make sure you get enough copies for all the members." A stack of papers was thrown carelessly at me. As I bent down to pick up the papers I had dropped, I could hear James's mocking voice. Typical old man, so useless. With just those words, he returned to his desk without another glance in my direction. A sympathetic co-worker tried to help me, but after getting a sharp look from James, he just said, "Sorry," with a regretful look on his face. "Don't worry about it, it's my job," I replied to the kind co-worker while gathering the documents. Afterwards, I made copies for everyone, secured them with paper clips, and made my way to the conference room. "You're late." The moment I entered, I was met with a shout. I thought there was still time before the meeting began. Confused, I distributed the documents to the co-workers. The meeting time was moved up. A female co-worker whispered to me. It seemed I hadn't been informed of the change in schedule. Feeling like a small act of malice had pierced my heart, I took my seat. "Why are you sitting? You're not part of this meeting, old man," James's sharp voice echoed throughout the conference room. "I'd like to understand about the new product," I responded, feeling the situation was completely unfair. At that, James visibly scowled. "We're telling you to leave because even if you listen, it won't be of any use." His disgruntled voice drew the attention of everyone in the room. Some looked annoyed, some pitied me, their glances hurt, and I decided that staying would only be a nuisance. "I understand. Excuse me." I quietly said that and left the conference room. Behind the door I had softly closed, I bit my lip with sadness and frustration. I had returned to the NY headquarters to work. Yet, they wouldn't let me do anything. Still, I'm not in a position to defy James right now. Harry told me to learn from him. I don't want to let him down. If I can't attend the meetings, all I can do is dive deep into the documents, research the details, and understand them. Throughout the hours-long meeting, I did what I could in my own way. The new product discussed in the meeting was set to be pitched to a major international company. James is at the center of this project. He's running around various places as if he's forgotten about my existence. Right now, I'm left behind in the office, sorting and processing the expense documents he told me to handle. Occasionally, there are receipts mixed in that shouldn't be processed as expenses, so I discreetly set them aside for later clarification. I plan to ask about the details later. However, for such a big project, I think James is making too many unilateral decisions. Each time he returns, he gives instructions to the co-workers, but he seems to be the only one who knows the detailed status of things. This way, things that need to be done or networking when he's not around can't be done. I believe the product is being manufactured in a factory, but has he checked on its operation status? Looking around, many co-workers seem unsure about what to do next, their hands idle. What should I do? While I'm pondering this, James returns. His face is flushed, filled with elation. Walking back with great pride, he approaches me with a smug look on his face. "Hey, old dropout, translate this in an hour." I glanced at the documents handed to me with a mocking laughter. It appeared to be a contract written in French. "It might be too hard for you without a college degree, but get it done in less than an hour." I called out to James as he was about to walk away. "Hold on. This is a contract for a new product, right?" "Yeah, so what?" I responded to his scoffing remark. "I've skimmed through it, and this contract is just absurd." "What? No way you read that so quickly." Facing his raised angry voice, I calmly pointed out the errors in the documents. First, the amount listed here is off. The contract itself is simple enough that anyone could read it in a few seconds. I began by reading out the contract quickly. Not just James, but the other co-workers also looked at me in surprise. The wording seems fine, but this is in Euro notation. What are you talking about? That can't be right." James snatched the contract from me and took another hard look at it. He was visibly shaken by the amount listed. The fact that the amount was sneakily written in small, messy handwriting suggests that the other company is definitely shady. Still, if one were to carefully check, it would be obvious. To begin with, it's clear they're taking us lightly if they think they can pull something like this. Thankfully, the contract hasn't been finalized yet. There's still a chance to fix things. Can someone please call Harry as soon as possible? Whoa, old man, don't go making decisions on your own. I glance at the shouting James and quickly think about my next move. James, the contract mentions that we need to provide samples before the deal, right? Yay, that's right. It's a big deal. That's standard procedure. Have you informed the factory about this? At my words, James hesitated. Most likely, the factory wasn't informed about the sample provision. Come on, even without saying, we surely have some samples ready, don't we? We can't be sure of how many surplus units we have without checking with the factory. I immediately make a call to the factory. The workers there, surprised by the urgent call from the NY headquarters, promptly connect me to the factory manager, who fortunately was nearby. I quickly brief him on the current situation and check how many samples we can provide. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to meet the numbers our client had specified. I know it's a stretch, but can we ramp up production to meet the deadline? For you, Sam, we'll make it work. Don't sweat it. The factory manager was willing to cooperate. I felt sorry, but it seemed like we would have to ask the workers for some overtime. Thank you, I really appreciate it. I sent my deepest gratitude to them. Sam, what on earth happened? Harry arrived, and James, pale-faced, pleaded with the director. Director, this guy, he messed with my contract. Everyone present knew that James was the one who initially brought the contract. He probably wasn't aware of the nonsense he was spouting. However, it was clear he was trying to pin his mistake on me. This realization made me profoundly sad. Harry, there were discrepancies in the contract. Here's the translated version. Upon reading the document I handed over, his face changed. If we went through with this deal, our company would suffer immense losses. We haven't finalized the deal yet. I'll contact the client. What do you think you're doing? It's my contract. I'll make the call. James, keep quiet for a moment. Harry sternly interrupted James. Sam, can I trust you with this? Of course, you can. Harry's words, filled with trust, made me nod in agreement. I immediately contacted the client. As I began conversing fluently in French, everyone in the office stared at me in surprise. However, I couldn't be concerned with that now. Time was of the essence. I've secured an appointment. I'll head over to their office right away. I'll accompany you. We quickly tidied ourselves up and began preparations to head to the client's office. If that's the case, I'll go too. James tried to persist, but Harry gave him a cold stare. Do you even comprehend the gravity of what you've done? James was at a loss for words, and I said nothing. Now was not the time for that. Leaving a visibly exhausted James behind, we left the office. As a result, we successfully negotiated with the client and managed to make a deal that satisfied both parties. At first, they seemed to look down on us, but when I began speaking in their language, they quickly changed their attitude and engaged in a balanced conversation. It seems they never intended to act so unscrupulously from the beginning. They realized there was an oversight in the contract and mentioned how relieved they were that a competent representative came to rectify it. Apparently, James's French was hard to understand and, to make matters worse, rather self-absorbed. While we do conduct our transactions in English, it's not their native language. That's precisely why one must be cautious with pronunciation and word choice. James's way of speaking lacked sincerity. This, combined with other issues, frustrated them, and they thought of slightly intimidating us. They didn't expect us to take such a contract seriously and actually consider it. At the same time, they had intended to sever ties with any company willing to finalize such an agreement carelessly. Our newbie, James, was rude, but you guys were also out of line. Upon hearing this, the executives from the client side gave a wry smile and apologized for testing us. Moving forward, I believe we can engage in mutually beneficial transactions. After that, we shook hands, had a friendly chat, and then returned to the New York headquarters. I returned to the New York headquarters and entered the office, which was still buzzing with unease. Soon, flustered co-workers rushed over to me. The contract has been amended to the appropriate amount and will provide the sample products as promised, I informed them. Upon sharing that the director and I had renegotiated the deal, ensuring a positive business relationship in the future. The co-workers collectively sighed in relief and celebrated the good news. Amidst the jubilation, a young man stood alone, glaring at me. It was James. "What the hell, man? You stole my thunder." Cold stares surrounded the yelling James. "James, do you realize how much trouble you've caused everyone this time?" As I questioned him calmly, it seemed to strike a nerve, and he started ranting like a tantruming child. Why should I care? If everyone had listened to me, everything would have gone smoothly. I did nothing wrong. Everything would have been fine without your meddling. I'm not at fault. Definitely not at fault. With each of his outbursts, the atmosphere grew colder. And it seems my patience had reached its limit. Enough is enough. My voice echoed throughout the office. You should be ashamed, being an adult and not being able to accept your own mistakes. Quietly, yet with stern authority, I addressed him. James stood there, lost for words. The co-workers just stared at me with shock, while Harry gave a wry smile. This could have been avoided if you haven't acted on your own. There's nobody else here competent enough except me. No one paid heed to James's lone outburst. Why is it always me who's in the wrong, and you old man is always right? My name is Sam, so do not call me old man. I replied firmly. You've never once called me by my name, have you? Why would I? Someone like you doesn't deserve that kind of respect. Seeing James refuse to accept his mistakes to the very end made me sad. James, Sam here, has been instrumental in setting up our overseas branches and has been a pillar of support for 10 years. But he's just a guy without a college degree. It's true I didn't graduate from college, but ever since then, I've dedicated my life to this company. At the words of both Harry and me, everyone in the office, including James, was speechless. He's in a completely different league than you, both in skills and experience. I hoped you would learn from Sam. I was mistaken. The words from Harry, clearly expressing his disappointment, left James utterly deflated. After that, I no longer saw James around the office. He wasn't fired. The company tried to let him go, but I intervened. Though arrogant and self-centered, he's still young. He should have the chance to start over. Now, he's working at a factory as a regular worker on the floor. I wanted him to get to know the ground level, to understand the products and the people making them, and then figure out what he should be doing. Some said I was being lenient, but I disagree. For someone as proud as him, working on the factory floor would be a humbling experience. I thought this would be the best lesson for him. He might not be able to do even half of what the workers he looked down upon can do. Through this, I hope he learns. It's because of these supportive workers that we can do our jobs. Being nurtured by this company, I don't want to abandon him. I hope he bounces back from this setback and someday we can work side by side. That's my wish. Months have passed since then, and work has been running smoothly. As for me, I've been promoted to Sales Department Director. Harry is now an Executive Vice President. My relationships with the co-workers are strong, and we have a solid partnership with the clients, even the ones we had the contract issues with. Looking back, this company saved my life. And now, I'm back at the New York headquarters, supporting the company as one of its pillars. I'm liaising with our overseas branches, and we're making progress with new product development. The fruits of my labor over the years are finally paying off. I couldn't be happier. I will continue to grow alongside this company. I watered the small cactus on my desk before heading to a meeting. By the time I returned, the cactus had blossomed with a tiny flower.